Right now, what we've seen is a lot of different technology companies are moving in the whole world, but coming to Latin America, and they're trialing new technologies. And I wanted, from your perspective, what are some of the weaknesses that these companies need to understand that the mining companies, they might not have the skills or the tools in certain areas? Could you speak to maybe some of the things that they should know or understand when they're trialing new technologies?
I'd maybe take a step before that, Cody. At a higher level, to me, there's multiple actors, right? And if we look at the two principal actors, it will be the technology supplier or vendor and the operator. So the person on the ground actually producing is responsible for that sustainable production. Now, there exists an asymmetry of experience and knowledge between those two groups. So the very first thing a technology supplier needs to know is what value or what pain am I coming to solve? And is that amongst the top priorities of who I'm working with? Because we already work in an industry which is full of risk. So the way the mining industry would look at it, certainly from the operator side, is, well, I'm adding more risk to a basket which is already full of risk. So the big thing is, well, I need to get confidence not just in the technology, but also the people who are custodians of that technology or owners of that technology, that I'm not adding unknown risk to this basket already. But the first piece on how do you align and deal with that asymmetry means that there's a human piece which you need to do there, and an organizational piece. There needs to be conversations which can be quite iterative to make sure you're working on the right thing. If you don't get that right, everything else is just heartache. Once you've got that lined up, then I think it becomes a lot easier, but you need to make sure there's lots of things which line up there. The contract piece needs to capture the spirit of what you're trying to do. You need to be fairly generous around the timings, because if something's new, your technology might be well known, but you're working in an environment, and this is independent of whether you're in Chile or anywhere else, you're in a mine site environment which is different. And to be quite honest, replication from one mine site to another mine site, the plug and play piece just doesn't exist. So each replication or scale is slightly different, and you need to be generous in time and expectations around that for that to happen. But that's not just from you as a supplier, it also needs to be reciprocated with your client. So the whole concept of how do you co-develop your test work, how you identify what your KPIs and things like that are, is absolutely critical. Because if you don't get your expectations set up in the beginning, it's just going to lead to frustration later on.